In honor of Alex Trebek, what is your favorite Jeopardy! Moment or memory? There was an American football category, and all three contestants did not answer a single question from the category. Alex slowly made fun of them more and more as the category went deeper. It's an all-time classic. I don't remember what tournament or who provided the final Jeopardy answer, but the guy was going to lose, so his answer was something like, "We love you, Alex." Alex choked up. It was honestly very touching and unexpected. High school teacher here. Jeopardy gave me a great memory with one of my favorite students. I was watching an episode one night and Alex read a question about Brave New World, the novel I was teaching at the time. I was pleased to see that trivia pop up but didn't think much of it until the next day. The kid in question was the quarterback of our high school, super popular and one of the sweetest kids ever. The next morning he rushed into class excitedly to ask me if I had seen Jeopardy the night before and noticed the BNW question. I totally got it right, Mrs. ___. I made the question part of our morning review and he and I shared a wonderful moment of mutual nerdiness. Thanks, Alex. What is a hoe? There was a question asking about a character whose catchphrase was, "I'm a victim of circumstance," and Alex read it in an attempted impression of one of the Three Stooges, but the woman who buzzed in said, "Who is Elmer Fudd?" And Alex, in a somewhat defeated tone, replied, "Was it really that bad?" I don't know how many years ago it was that I saw that episode, but it still makes me smirk when I think about it. Not really a Jeopardy moment, but definitely a good Alex Trebek moment. That time Alex Trebek chased a burglar out of his hotel room in the middle of the night, and his Achilles tendon ruptured during the chase. Then realized he didn't have a key to get back into his room because he sleeps naked. Epic levels of awesome. Once the answer was something like, the number 14, and sometimes 12, the guy said, "What is the age of consent?" My God, Trebek's face. Priceless. This is going to be poorly paraphrased because I can't remember the exact question and can't seem to find a clip anywhere, but the question was about a sea creature and the answer was moray eel. When the contestant answered the question, he actually sang out, "That's a moray, a la Dean Martin." While the audience died laughing, Alex Trebek just kind of stared in the things I have to put up with way. He stared so long that the contestant eventually was like, "Oh, I mean, what is a moray eel?" Back in the 80s, when I was in college, I spent one morning on the couch, sick. I watched Jeopardy that morning among other shows, of course. That afternoon my roommate's parents came over to visit him. Jeopardy is a syndicated show, so another channel was airing the exact same episode. Sick, wrapped up in a blanket, and eating the soup his mom made, I proceeded to amaze them with my obscure knowledge of practically everything. His dad was pretty impressed. From that point on I was the good influence in his life. The day after Jennings lost and Alex came out and said a few kind words acknowledging his remarkable run. I love Alex Trebek's brief cameo in X-Files, https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=dxgeekv4 . This farming tool also shares the slang term for an immoral pleasure seeker. Ken Jennings, what is a hoe? Trebek gave his version of Steve Harvey that day. It was the wrong answer, but was too perfect. In the UK here, we don't get the show on TV, and when the wife and I visited the US for our honeymoon and subsequent trips, it was always on during that period when we were getting ready to go out for the night, so we'd end up watching it and loved the format. A couple of years ago they added a ton of episodes to UK Netflix and I spent my 40th birthday in a holiday cabin near the coast watching back-to-back shows while downing a bottle of scotch. I have several all related to my appearances: College Jeopardy! 02, Talk 03, Ultimate Talk in 2005. During my taping, a girl in the crowd whispered the answer to a question very loudly. He kind of ignored it, but during the next commercial break he just sauntered over right to the section the girl was sitting in, gave them a little death stare, and just pulled his finger across his throat making the SHHTKK sound. He was extra nice to my mom, who has a crutch and brace from childhood polio. When I won the tourney, they normally had friends and family come join the winner, but he went up in the stands and celebrated with them there so she wouldn't have to navigate the steps. And finally, I very coincidentally ran into Sean Connery at the hotel while I was in town to film the 2003 talk as it was Oscars week. I told Alex he loves those skits, and he just lit up and told me if I saw him again to pop him in the mouth and tell him, that's from Trebek. Cliff Clavin on Cheers playing Jeopardy. Who are three people who have never been in my kitchen? A guy buzzing in with donkey punch as an answer. I died that day. My mom died of brain cancer 6 years ago. She was a huge Jeopardy fan. Near the end she couldn't think straight and was panicky and frustrated. The sound of Alex Trebek's voice was the only thing that would calm her down. I am eternally grateful to him for comforting my mother when nobody else could. Rip Mr. Trebek. All of them always featured legitimately intelligent people. No gimmicks, just knowledge. That show was good for the world. Good. I always think about Jeopardy because it was usually on during dinner growing up. It gave me a sense of comfort, because we never fought and my parents never yelled during that time. Every once in a while I would get an answer my parents didn't know and they would look at me impressed. I know this isn't the sort of moment you were asking for, but it's the fond memory I have associated with it. Cheers episode. When Cliff bets like an idiot. When the contestant wrote, "We less than 3 you, Alex," instead of putting down his double Jeopardy response. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was on Celebrity Jeopardy and got an answer wrong. The next person also got it wrong and Kareem said, "Well, technically that could be right," and the judges said he was right. It was a very cool moment. For me it was the consistency of seeing Trebek every weeknight for the last 20 years. I can't imagine another host of the show. When "Shoot that basketball star," Robert Ewing, corrected Alex during Celebrity Jeopardy. The question was largest Nordic nation I think. First two respondents, clouding Ewing, were wrong. Third gets the right answer before Ewing says, "That's actually incorrect, Alex. If you include Greenland, then Denmark was the greatest land area." Only time I saw Alex stunned. My dad and I would always watch Jeopardy and have a cup of coffee together after work and school. It's my favorite tradition that we have. With 4 kids in my family, it feels so nice to have one thing that's just ours to share. When Wolf Blitzer, https://youtube.be/dvc28oemoka completely crashed and burned. Alex was cool about it, but you could tell he found it funny. During the teachers' tournament this year, one of the teachers got the daily double. Alex said he could name his bet or make it a true daily double, and one of the other teachers loudly stage whispered, "Do it." Still makes me laugh. When he announced this year's Ottawa Senators' 3rd overall pick in the NHL entry draft. My grandfather was a trivia genius. He must have had a near-perfect memory considering all the random stuff he never forgot. He passed when I was young, and lived out of state for the last few years of his life, so I wasn't exactly close to him, but he was a bright spot in a very dark family tree. Jeopardy was a staple in his life. He would watch it religiously and just sit there answering every question. One of my favorite stories about him is of the time when my grandmother and aunt taped an episode and memorized all the answers before he could see it, and when he watched it they jumped in and answered before he could. This was the guy who would wander past a game of Trivial Pursuit and ruin it for everyone else, so I love to think of him thrown off, even just a little, when it seemed like he could never be wrong. Even though I never really watched it myself, just thinking about the show warms my heart with memories that seem so far away. And thinking of it now, I bet he's what inspired my love for holding onto random bits of information. As a kid, my great-aunt and uncle's house was my second home. I'd eat dinner there at least 2x per week, and just watching the show with them was my favorite. My parents never let us watch TV while eating dinner, so being at my aunt's was a special treat. We'd watch the 6 o'clock local news, then Wheel of Fortune, then Jeopardy. That's not one memory, I know, but it's what the show means to me. The football question when nobody knew the answer. All of them. Alex Trebek was a legend. When Ken Jennings gave a wrong answer and the genius Watson robot then gave the exact same wrong answer. I loved the Tournament of Champions they had. The questions were ridiculously hard and yet all three knew nearly every one. The players were all down to earth in spite of their obvious intelligence and Alex joining in the banter. A lot of fun. In the 80s, in the Navy in Charleston, roommate was in Norfolk or Groton for training. Talking on the phone one evening and Jeopardy was on. We were watching different broadcasts of the same recorded episode. Mine was a few seconds earlier than his. He was on the payphone in the barracks TV lounge. I started feeding him answers. He was nonchalantly answering every question before the player did, to the amazement of the other dudes in the lounge. It was fun for a while. Okay, I guess. Reverse wherever I typed answer and question. Edit. Looks like you Quiche had a similar story and his was in first. They had a question about Mesopotamian cryptograms the exact same day we learned the vocabulary word cuneiform in social studies. Got the $1,000 question right in 5th grade. My folks thought I was a goddamn genius for a second. I used to play Jeopardy with my mom as a kid. We would get out paper and keep score, and I value that time we spent together. Anytime I am visiting, my mom and I will still sit down and play. Jeopardy is the reason that I joined the quiz bowl team in high school, and we actually won the state championship one year. It was so much fun. I tried out for Jeopardy twice, and I didn't make the cut. It has always been a life goal of mine to make it on the show. I'm deeply saddened by the loss of Alex. My favorite moment has to be this interview where the contestant gives as good as she gets. Wait for it. It's the second interview, https://youtube.be/ikesianpixim. A friend and I in undergrad had badly matching schedules and the only times we had to see each other were 7:30 from Monday to Thursday, which was when Jeopardy was on. So as often as we can, we would head over and watch this, sometime back in 2005-ish. One week, there was the most elusive of contestants, the Jeopardy hottie. So beautiful, so rare. His name was Ben Bishop. He was so F-wine. After watching him continue through the week as clever as he was brilliant, my friend had bracelets made that said, WWBBD, and I still have mine. That's my favorite Jeopardy moment. Less than 3. The one time I got the final Jeopardy that none of the contestants knew. The answer was Deget. Trebek saying the lyrics to Panda, I think that is the song's name. Let's rap kids, https://youtube.be/2tong3jgw closing parenthesis. Watching with my grandma. She's 101 years old at the moment. Very much hoping she holds on long enough to get past Corona so we can visit her again. As a Canadian, I always enjoyed the little smirk he would have if someone got an obvious question about Canada wrong. Made me proud every time. Sean Connery. It looks like this is my lucky day. I'll take the rapists for 200. Trebek. That's therapists, not the rapists. My favorite Jeopardy moment just happened 5 minutes ago. My dad's chosen joke answer to questions on the show has been the Basque region for years. I have no idea why. He says it anytime he doesn't know the real answer. Tonight we watched Friday's episode, and Basque was actually an answer. My dad knew it before the contestant answered and completely flipped out when he was right. I know this is kind of stupid, but the fact that it was the last episode to air before Trebek's death was especially special. It kind of felt like a little joke between him and us. They expedited the audition process for a woman with advanced cancer whose dying wish was to be on the show. She made it several episodes but died shortly before they aired. She got to see them in advance, I believe. Q. In 2013, Katy Perry was coming at ya like a this, perhaps James K. Polk. Ryan. What is an ex-president? I will forever hum the music out loud whenever someone takes too long at something. It never gets old. Me and one of my foster families had the luck of being in an audience for Jeopardy one time. He talked with the audience during the breaks and he was a really nice dude. That was the best foster family that I've stayed with so far. I grew up watching Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune every night. One year when I was very young, for April Fool's Day, the shows traded hosts. For some reason Tiny Me thought that was the funniest damn thing in the world and I'll never forget it. I was 12, watching Jeopardy at my grandmother's house. I was pulled out of school in the second grade. I read every book I could get my hands on as a result of the lack of input. In those days I had a choice, books or boredom. 1986. I was watching an episode and realized I was answering questions with full confidence. I realized I wasn't dumb. I returned to school my freshman year of high school, graduated early. I always stayed a fan. Ho. https://youtube.be/nyo7hsans-u. It's like a family member died. My aunt babysitting me. She'd make ham sandwiches and we'd eat in front of the TV and watch Jeopardy. Just like Price is Right reminds me of watching it with my grandma. When I was in college, my brother was my roommate. We never missed Jeopardy and competing against each other. We even had clickers to determine who clicked in first. Many an argument was had. My grandparents watched Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune every night with dinner. If any of us grandkids joined them, there were rules. If you knew the Jeopardy answer, you could shout it out immediately. If you knew the Wheel of Fortune answer, you had to keep silent until everyone had solved it. I have such fond memories of watching Jeopardy with them and getting the approving nod from my grandpa when I'd know an answer no one else did. Thank you, Alex, for all the memories. Heart. Once the question was, what is a love triangle? But the female contestant answered, what is a threesome? Found at https://youtube.be/jfdvg6122ls, and I like how he mentioned on at least 2 episodes that his favorite animal was a musk ox. I was 6. My grandparents had picked me up from school because Dad was running late. Grandma has made pork chops, salad, and au gratin potatoes. She set up a TV tray and let me sit in her recliner while Grandpa sat in his, and they turned on Jeopardy. I got so excited because they asked a question about some book I liked and I got the question right. Grandma looked at me with her kind, approving smile. Grandpa laughed and called me a whippersnapper. Anytime my dad was running late, I'd get to watch Jeopardy with my grandparents. They both passed over the last 5 years, so watching Mr. Trebek always made me feel like they were still here. I never met Alex Trebek and have no right to cry over his passing, but I've shed more than a few tears for him today. At home when I got the final Jeopardy answer right. Went to a taping session for Jeopardy and sat in the audience. So I watched it live, but it would not air until a month and a half later. Trebek, during breaks, would talk to people in the audience and answer questions. He asked specifically where people were coming from. My family said, Idaho, and he said, I love Idaho potatoes, and just chatted with us. That was cool to see and much appreciated. During the GOAT tournament, when Brad had a 0 from the previous match, they wiped the score, and James quipped, hey, Brad's score is still up there. Thanks for watching. See you later.